What's up, traders? If you watch my channel, you know that I oftentimes like to rub a little bit of heads and challenge some common narratives. And one of the common narratives that I heard in the last few months about cryptocurrency was that it was a hedge against inflation. Now, I kind of believe this. I think that a lot of people, a lot of especially younger people, are using cryptocurrency, whereas previous generations would have used gold as their hedge against inflation. I think that's pulled a lot of the demand out of gold, which is why even though we're seeing inflation, people are expecting inflation, you don't see gold going and tripling in value. You have had people putting their money into crypto. And this is the justification that a lot of newer traders were telling me, especially when we were up in the 50K and beyond range, was that the dollar was going to be useless. And the only thing that would really have value would be cryptocurrency because it couldn't be printed like the Fed is doing. This may be true. This may be true. But there's also another interpretation to it. There's this old rule that banks used to, or bankers used to say, it was the 363 rule. This was very antiquated because it came about back in the pre 80s time. But you would take deposits at 3%, you would loan it out at 6%, and you would be on the golf course by 3 o'clock. That was what the 363 rule implied. And that worked great when interest rates were very high because you had that play, that wiggle room in there that banks could make money off of. And as when rates are nearly at zero, you don't have that kind of arbitrage that they can take advantage of. But if interest rates go up, then banks' profits typically go up too. And so while we haven't seen a rise in interest rates, there's a lot of talk about eventually, once we catch up to the acknowledgement that inflation is happening and going on higher than we expect, interest rates will rise, and that will make banks more profitable. Now, you can't wait for that to happen. You can't wait for an event to happen to make money off of it. In fact, that's the worst time to do it because that's already when it's priced in. But people are right now, or the last several months, pricing in inflation and pricing in interest rates rising, and that has affected the banks. Now, why am I talking about banks if I've got Bitcoin up on the chart? Well, let's take a look at something. Let's do some math, some statistics. So, if we look at the first day of this year of 2021, that was January 1st, right about here. Let's do a little info line and see where we are today. And from here to here, we can get our year-to-date performance of Bitcoin. Now, I know what you're thinking, but it went up all the way to 62K. Yes, crypto has volatility. Welcome to the marketplace. The year-to-date performance, as it stands now, is 34%. Keep that in mind. What have the banks been doing as traders and investors have been pricing in inflation? Well, let's take a look at JP Morgan. JP Morgan, from the first day of the year, which would have been the 4th, let's just take a look here. It's up about 27%. What about some more retail banks? What about Bank of America? Bank of America, as you see, I've already drawn it up, is up about 37%. What about Wells Fargo? They've been under a lot of trouble. Surely their stock's gone down as well. Wells Fargo, from the opening of the 4th, there we go, up to here is about 52%. Now, contrast that to, again, Bitcoin. The hedge against inflation that everyone talks about and has been telling themselves is only up 34%. Meanwhile, old school conventional investment vehicles like stocks are actually outperforming. I did a little quick math on this, and here are some of the major banks in the S&P 500 as well as different financial ETFs. Wells Fargo, 53%, Bank of America, 40%, Goldman Sachs, 38%. Up to this point, they're all outperforming Bitcoin, and these are pretty much keeping pace. So I know people will come back to me and say, like, well, but Bitcoin is going to 100K. You can't make that comparison. You don't understand cryptocurrency. Do you know that for sure that it's going to 100K? What makes you think that it's going to go up that high? Is it because you see the past, the history of how cryptocurrency has been going up? Have you ever thought to look back a few years or see what Bitcoin has done in the last decade? Yes, it's gone up. But when it goes on these kind of meteoric rises, does it not have a snapback? I challenge you to go through and check on that. Look and see what the typical pattern is, even when people think it's the future and the price goes off. Oh, and by the way, those bank stocks and their year to date performance doesn't include dividends. And Bitcoin doesn't give a dividend either. So take this to heart. Trade wisely. We'll see you in the next video.